The MedBricks webcast is focused on bringing distinguished Indians and others from diverse fields of science, medicine, technology, and philosophy to learn from each other and to create a new understandings and foster new ideas related to healthcare.
Hi there. Good evening.
1 second. Give me that. Just give me 1 second. Stay on the line. Yeah, I don't know why it is. Minute. We have some technical. Once in a while, we get technical issue. Yeah. Hey, good morning, India. Hi, good morning, India. Good afternoon, England and Europe, and good evening, California, and sleepy time in East Coast in New York. We have a very special guest today. My name is Ramana for this show. It is a healthcare media channel. We are streaming on multiple channels: Facebook Live, Twitter Live, and LinkedIn Live, and Amazon Live. So we have all over the world. We have some audiences from around the world. It's basically, this program is designed for healthcare professionals, for healthcare providers, healthcare people, healthcare professionals. Talk among themselves. What is missing? What is not missing? All those things. That's why I wrote a book to expand the new subjects to the expanding their horizon for the physicians. Is the science is not a subject. Science must be a lifestyle. Is the book I have written. But anyway, so welcome you all, and this is a very special guest from my tribe. Let me introduce you. His name is he's Satish, Dr. Satish Madiraju. Dr. Satish Madiraju is a cardiologist. He's one of the few cardiologists who embraces technology without hesitation. Spent almost 20 years as the interventional cardiologist in New York area. He took a daring challenge and decided to move back to India to face head-on Indian healthcare system. His design thinking is from abstract to reality for patient-centered care. Design thinking is not just some technology; it is a new way of thinking and solving the problems the present-day healthcare systems. Uh, Doctor, let me bring you, Doctor
Hi there.
Madhiraja. Welcome. You're from the
Thank
same
you.
tribe as mine. Welcome you all. We are all speak. We're from the same language area. So
Thank
welcome,
you.
Dr. Madhiraja.
It's a pleasure to be on this webcast, and love to share my thoughts on how I evolved from a clinical practitioner to embracing design thinking and a product mindset to elevating customer experience in the healthcare field. So it's good to be here today.
So yeah, thank you. So what is you transferred? That's one of the things you took a challenge is from United States. You practiced the cardiology, interventional cardiology, and then you moved a shift towards a different kind of a abstract area,
Yeah.
which is design thinking. Motivated you to move to the abstract thinking area?
Yeah. I would urge you to think that perhaps, though it may sound abstract, that these are things that we notice when we encounter the healthcare field. For example, anytime you walk into a hospital, you must not fail to notice that very few hospitals or clinics are built around the patient. The systems, the processes, the workflows seem to be designed for the people who actually work in those buildings rather than their customers who are patients. And I believe it's structurally a design problem that could be solved because design thinking has permeated other fields. And think about everything else. Walking into a hotel, think about all the things that they do in hotels to make your life easier and your process of check-in, check-out, for example, easier. I don't see why that couldn't be a reality in healthcare. Why we have to stand in long lines to check into a hospital to get admitted or go into an emergency room. I think fundamentally many of these problems are design problems that require a paradigm shift in how we approach these problems, bring a very product mindset to it. Now, listen, healthcare is obviously a very high-touch field, but despite that, I think it lends itself to better design of processes, whether it's workflows or whether it's how a queue works in terms of a patient wanting to check into a lab to get their blood test, or many other factors that happen on a daily basis. So over my 20 years of being in active practice of clinical medicine, I noticed how fundamentally the processes and other things that happen in a hospital setting are very unfriendly to patients. And as individual physicians, I think we can strive to make their experience better, but it requires a lot of personal effort. And certainly that is not scalable. Like, for example, I could take great care of patients and provide them excellent experience through my own physical input. But why not productize that experience? And why not provide a productized experience that is scalable? And that's what I became interested in. And India presents a very unique opportunity to do so, because the regulatory landscape, the current thinking in the government, and the current challenges are being discussed very widely. And given the fact that COVID kind of awakened us in terms of the fallibility of the Indian healthcare system, a lot of conversations happening in the ecosystem of how we should fundamentally redesign the way medicine is practiced in India, and how patients actually access services and access insurance and other aspects of healthcare. So I felt that this was a good opportunity for a guy like me with deep clinical practice experience, deep connect with individuals across the stakeholder line in healthcare systems. I understood how different areas of healthcare work, what patients wanted but didn't get, and became a self-learner in management, got an MBA, started reading about design thinking, started writing about it, started applying those principles into what I saw on a daily basis in clinical practice, and became convinced that there is huge scope for improvement. And I think we have the ability now through technology to create delightful experiences for patients. We can fundamentally redesign how they interact with the healthcare system, make them delightful with high levels of customer satisfaction. And that's the other shift that I very convinced about, that we must stop thinking of patients as patients, but that they are customers. And that just as we as customers expect very high levels of customer experience when you walk into an airport or into a hotel, so must also patients/customers receive such high levels of customer experience.
Dr. Maharaju, you orchestrated one of the design thinking was you introduced the 5 concepts, empathizing, and could you elaborate on those 5 concepts that he came up with, pragmatic steps? Even though they're abstract, you made it a very pragmatic, and that's what I was interested in reading about you and having.
Not something that obviously conjured up. This is widely written, widely practiced in the amongst designers. Is that when you design something, whether it's a product or a device or service design or the user experience within a mobile application, that the beginning step is to put yourself in the shoes and the skin of who your customer is, and think about who they are, where do they live, what is their jobs to be done. What do they do every day to cater to the certain problem that they have to address on a daily basis? Take, for example, a diabetic. When do they get up in the morning? Where do they live? What challenges do they face in checking their glucose readings? What challenges do they face in accessing appropriate care? By doing so with that type of mindset, you start at the very bottom of understanding what your customer actually wants, desires, and what their pain points are. And therefore, you're empathizing with who they are and what they go through. And that must shape the first steps in how you design anything. And I feel that we have a good option to do that in healthcare, because we see these individuals every day, hundreds of them. We just don't take feedback from them in a systematic way. We just have not built processes to extract feedback from them and systematically analyze that feedback to then go into the next steps of product development or service design.
Healthcare usually based on institutions, hospitals, healthcare plans, insurance companies. Now you're taking a big challenge is designing the healthcare as a patient-centered care. as a patient is the center of the care, and then everything has to serve him. It is a very definitely novel idea. It's a not only novel idea, it's a really right idea. So, what are the things you need to do for that, even in this country or in the United States? We have the
Yeah.
same problem, right? Or in India, what is the steps you suggest to do that?
Yeah. So one is that obviously around the world there are great systems that have done a much better job than others, and um, one of which is how do you build systems of care and care models surrounding the individual. And I started reading about this concept of integrated practice units, and these are units of people that cater to certain conditions. And it could be a doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, a meditation trainer, a yoga specialist. And technology could be used to bring these individuals into a very cohesive team that surrounds a panel of patients, for example, and designs access to products and services that are relevant to the group that they are catering to. So here I see technology as a great enabler of accelerating that path to a more coordinated, continuous experience. And that's what we're building at HealthUp is a connected care ecosystem, an ecosystem where customers, doctors, others dwell, share information with each other. Together, they deliver high levels of customer experience to patients, customers, and others, while embedding that everything that an individual needs within that journey, very contextually, so that they do not have to look for it, but the system is smart enough that it senses that an individual might potentially need access to this product or service. It brings it forward to them contextually so that everything happens very seamlessly. So I feel that this is an ecosystem play, that it's a play of building the tech to build all partners together on one platform, and with the single motto that we all work together systematically and efficiently to bring high levels of customer experience.
So you have experience in United States in healthcare system, and then you move to India. And what are the things, structural changes you think between the United States and the differences that India can adopt, or vice versa? Maybe United States can adopt some of those ideas from India.
Yeah.
What would you suggest those kind of changes?
Yeah. I think fundamentally the systems are a bit different, but it's unified for the fact that in every country that I've been to, there are always great doctors, great nurses, great pharmacists, and this chunk of good healthcare personnel. No, they're not always in good supply. They're not always in supply sufficient to meet the demand. In the U.S., I think the United States does a very good job with bringing new technologies and medicines to the market, providing access to large segments of people to life-saving treatments. But somehow I feel like there are many times where we overdo it. And, any ICU in the United States you walk into, there are always people that are in those ICU beds, many of them on ventilators. And when you look at them, you doubt whether how many of these actually have a chance of survival. So I think the United States has good access to great medicines, technology, a lot of doctors, huge healthcare waste. We often don't realize the boundaries where we should stop doing certain things to individuals. I think it's a stressed system, compounded by the fact that COVID has caused a lot of burnout in healthcare personnel, and I think they are leaving in record numbers. A lot of digital health tools and companies coming up, maybe they'll plug some of these gaps. On the other hand, in India, access to good healthcare, timely access to good healthcare is an issue which isn't a big problem in the United States, though even in the United States for some underserved communities and disadvantaged populations, it's still an issue to good access. But timely access to good care is a challenge across the spectrum in India compared to the United States. Now, the advantage I feel is that, number one, India is building this stack called India Health Stack. Many of you may be aware of the fact that India built this system called the Unified Payments Interface, which is a payment gateway system. and a lot more transactions happen on the UPI every month than on any other gateway in the entire world. You walk into any small, what we call a kirana store on the street, there'll be a QR code that you can scan and you can transfer money to that individual. So the same group that built that is now building a unified health interface where each Indian will have a health ID. Every doctor will have an ID. And doctors, hospitals, clinics, laboratories will be categorized and access provided to these individuals through an application based on the needs that they have. There will be a personal health record, a DigiLocker, that we can share. If I went to a clinic and I wanted to share my file, I get immediate blockchain-based smart contract consent. I transfer information to you so you can care for me. Analytics engines built into it, data analytics, claims analytics. So having observed how things worked or did work around the world, having observed the challenges of COVID on India's healthcare system, I think was somewhat of an advantage in terms of being able to build things ground up. So, and I think it's going to be a fabulous thing, and one I think the entire world will emulate once it's fully built.
One of the areas is regulatory and compliance issue and legal issues. What is the differences you see from the United States to India? What do you see?
Yeah, I felt personally that the barrier to entry to somebody like me to build something off the ground was low in India, given capital requirements and other and regulatory requirements, a little bit easier to handle here than in the United States. Obviously, healthcare is a highly regulated market. And in India, for example, many of the systems that I think we should build in place are not currently existent. For example, hospitals are not regulated, unlike in the United States. You have JCO ensuring quality of services in the individual hospital, linking it to recognition of their status. That doesn't exist. Hospitals in India pursue voluntarily certification by a accreditation organization as a marketing tool. But I think we should move towards regulating the hospital landscape, holding hospitals accountable for pricing, outcomes, value given to patients. That's what I see missing in Indian healthcare system. I feel that, again, the health stack will allow us to kind of elevate how we operate and bring those necessary changes, given the fact that if I'm visible to the entire country on one unified ecosystem, and I'm certain that in due course, doctors and hospitals can be chosen by customers, patients, etc., within the unified health interface system based on how they perform, who do they care for, what are they good at, what are they not good at. And I think that level of transparency from connecting all the players together will come, and I think that will also be a game changer.
One of the areas, big challenges that constantly I hear from India is inducement of referrals, start clause. We do not have something like a start clause. The referral system is a big challenge in India. Can you explain that? What is the challenge in that area?
Yeah, I would say it's prevalent, but it's but it's not universal. That are you referring to the fact that it's not unheard of that somebody refers the patient to another individual, that there may be some financial incentive transferred back? I certainly know it used to happen in the United States before. The start law is supposed to prohibit that. I still feel it happens to some level, perhaps not to the level like in India, but there's always exchange of, quid pro quo exchange of some benefit in some instances. And which is an issue, right? Healthcare fraud. That's part of the healthcare fraud.
They need a compliance. One of the areas, sorry, you go ahead.
Right.
One of the areas is the start clause. That is one thing is you cannot do massive abuse. It maybe happens in local, smaller level, but in India it's a massive level without any regulations, right? So you need kind of regulations to protect the health of the consumers and the people.
Right. I think you see there is National Medical Council, which is a successor to Medical Council of India. They regulate medical colleges and physicians and so on and so forth, but then hospitals, laboratories and diagnostic facilities, they're not regulated. And you're right. And a lot of the some of the traffic that's driven into these systems are generated through kickbacks. I think that it's a work in progress. Customers and patients are becoming more aware of who they seek care from. They're becoming more appropriately. They are becoming more acutely aware that they want the best care possible. And as the demand for that level of high experience and care comes from individuals, and we induct transparency into the system through things like such as Unified Health Interface Health Stack, it'll take time, but I think things will get better over time, but I don't see it happening overnight.
India is facing a lot of cardiovascular problems, particularly diabetes and heart-related problems. What is the reason? Is there any genetic reason or a combination of all the reasons? And what are the solutions you think of for the cardiovascular problems in India?
Yeah, huge burden of lifestyle diseases, right? So there's a paradigm shift in infectious disease burden, predominant cause for morbidity and mortality, growing economy, rising affluence, shift from rural to urban areas in search of migration, in search of opportunities, so on and so forth. More stressful lives, more busy lives, sort of a cut in the traditional access to natural food, and percolation of more processed food, and all these factors have caused, frankly, an ongoing epidemic of chronic diseases. Rampant obesity, pre-diabetes, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Some of these statistics are scary and sobering. About 90 to 100 million people with diabetes in India, second after China. Probably about 250 million to 300 million people with pre-diabetes, most of whom don't even know that they have it. Most of whom may not be even aware that such a condition exists. Hypertension, huge burden. About 3 in 4 of them don't have good control of their high blood pressure. Tobacco is an issue, and rising rates of obesity. All of those culminate in increasing cardiovascular morbidity and mortality. So it's not unheard of nowadays that I'm sure you remember that many years ago, if somebody in their 20s or 30s said I have diabetes, you assumed it was type 1 diabetes, but it's no longer the case. And in my own customer discovery over the last year and a half year, I've learned of many people in their 20s and 30s that have developed type 2 diabetes through lifestyle. Significant burden of cardiovascular mortality with premature heart attacks as a result. And certainly Indians do carry a genetic polymorphism that predisposes them to heart attacks. Anecdotally, incidence and prevalence of heart is not anecdotally, very widely published that even in the South Asian community in the United States, that risk actually transfers. Sometimes it becomes worse given the movement of that risk into a different environment and exposure to different diet and so on and so forth. I think it kind of like throwing fire into a cauldron, and things just get worse. So a lot of health tech companies are looking to solve some of these issues. Like many single disease specific companies working on the problem of diabetes, integrating the care of diabetes into one unified application where you could check your glucose and seek help from a nutritionist or see a doctor, and more continuous care. Chronic disease management startups are also working on some of the gaps in this. That's in fact one of the areas of work that we are doing is in our ecosystem of care, would like to provide to the individual all tools they need to care for their high blood pressure, sugar, diabetes, and high cholesterol. Yeah.
When I came to this country, first time I was involved with the Association of Black Cardiologists and the Association of Indian Cardiologists Association. We had a combination of a conference together. In that one, Dr. Enos, she's from Kerala, and Dr. Naveen Nanda, both of them had extensive studies, And then Dr. P.S. Reddy is one of them, is the for the group at the time. They did extensive studies on South Asian cardiovascular risks. You know, there is I met the director in San Francisco. I met the South Asian cardiovascular risk organization. Actually, I met them. So is it that studies are all helping now for you, to younger cardiologists like you, that what the Dr. Nanda and Dr. Enos did?
Yeah, it certainly makes you more aware of what the prevalence of heart disease is in the South Asian community, and it's now I think kind of widely published and known that we are at elevated risk for cardiac events, whether you live in India or the United States. And one of the ways I think we can solve for it is education is paramount. 2 is early diagnosis. 3 is access to timely care in the comfort of their home, in the way they want to, perhaps through their smartphone. And I'm very enthusiastic and impressed by what many companies are doing. I was recently talking to an Israeli startup that has built a smartphone tool where through the camera of a smartphone, you can check somebody's blood pressure through remote pulse plethysmography picked up from specific spots on the face. Imagine that once that technology becomes more robust and scalable and cheaper to use, it'll solve one of the pain points, which is not having access to a good blood pressure machine. And like that, there are numerous companies working on inventions and tools. And I think all of that together is going to have an impact in the next 5-10 years.
My late father is a physician, is a doctor and a teacher in a small village in Andhra Pradesh, in West Godavari district near Bhimavaram. At those days, there's a nobilities of serving communities and serving the people, the whole community, whole families. My father used to do that, irrespective of the reimbursement structures are. That kind of a trust is lost in the whole thing.
Yes.
And what is that to build that? As you said that last time when I was talking with you, you said something about trust. Could you please give that idea about the trust? How do you want to build that back through your system?
Right. See, the description of how your father's practice was is that traditional, ideal way of doing things, where a doctor was a friend, a philosopher, and took care of entire families, and there was a huge personal trust factor between each. I think that has eroded all across the world. Certainly, I don't see that anymore in the United States, where primary care physicians are so busy, they're burdened by administrative tasks. Still, I see a lot of good primary care physicians who still are striving to maintain that personal connect with their patients and the rest of the families, but it's becoming a rarity. Now, certainly, the advent of technology has the potential to make things worse if you don't design technology in a way that the empathy of healthcare is maintained or, in fact, enhanced. So I feel like health tech solutions will not solve an issue unless, in this space, unless they also work on the fact that anything they design, their applications, their mobile apps, everything has to have kind of that significant focus on the human-computer interaction and human factor engineering and other things that we need to do to provide a very empathetic, connected experience to the individual. Even if, let's say, I was the doctor and you see me today, we should design this in a way that you actually feel like I care about you and that I'm really focused on helping you. That's a big challenge. That's a big challenge that I'd love to work on, and I feel that that's the next chasm to cross.
So what you're doing at present? What is your plans? What are you doing present? Do you have a website that people can reach you? And
yeah, so basically we are an early stage health tech startup, and we're building off the capabilities of the India Health Stack, which promotes data interoperability. And we built a platform. Imagine this like an ecosystem where an individual that has a chronic condition can be within this ecosystem and find everything they want to manage their lifestyle diseases and other chronic diseases within this ecosystem without having to leave it in a very connected way that it seems like help is just next to them, that when they need to check something, they can do it through the smartphone, that when they need help with a nutritionist or a yoga therapist or they want to access other services, all very uniquely designed to cater to individual diseases with an acute focus on improving outcomes and therefore lowering costs. And I also believe that this alone will not solve the issue, given that access to timely, delightful care has to be financed. And about 500 million people in India don't have health insurance. And even for those 90 million, 89 crore people with private health insurance, many of them get priced out of the market every year due to medical inflation, rising premiums, and so on and so forth. There's a huge gap there. And every 6 million people every year in India become poor because they have to sell their belongings and raise loans to pay for healthcare expenses. 60% of healthcare expenses are out of pocket. And of the out-of-pocket healthcare expenses, 60% are from outpatient expenses. So there's a gap that we have that is left to be covered, and I think that solving for that through trustworthy, transparent, and affordable health insurance products that is uniquely and contextually embedded within this ecosystem that I mentioned to you, while giving the individual access not only to financial protection, but access to a plethora of services they need to care for themselves without having to worry about it. And I think that will be a game changer.
Dr. Madhuraju, you're wonderfully, you took a very noble step to move back to India and serving the people of Andhra Pradesh and the rest of the Hyderabad area. Please hang on, and I will present one of the areas that is you were mentioning about information. This
Sure.
is about the next topic I'm going to talk about, information that is going to be there, and just watch it for you will know this. Hello, my name is Ramana Annamaraju. I'm going to introduce you to one of the most enigmatic and elusive concepts in the entire field of science from my book, Science is Not a Subject, Science Must Be a Lifestyle. The concept is called entropy. I'm focusing on one aspect of entropy related to information and its connection with the present day healthcare challenges. Entropy is like a ghost, but it is a mean one. You don't see it, you cannot talk to it, it never leaves you, it threatens your job, it tries to destroy your health, it affects your performance, it follows you wherever you go and whatever you do. You feel and see only its destruction. It is not your competitor you need to worry. You need to worry about this elusive ghost. It is your enemy number one. Please pay attention. It makes a difference in your career, in your job, and your duties. If you are a policymaker, you have to understand the impact of money and the economy of your citizens. If you are the CEO of a healthcare system, you have to be concerned about access and equity for all your members. And if you are a software engineer, you need to analyze simplicity versus complexity with your user experience design. As I mentioned before, entropy is your number one enemy. It is true what they say, know your enemy first, then you can come up with a strategy to deal with it. We need to start with the question how much you know and how much you don't know about a system you're working on. This is not some philosophical or a new age question. You have to quantify with the numbers. It is a scientific question to the core. The answer is not that easy. Fortunately, there was a guy smarter than all of us, gave a stunning insight. His name is Ludwig Boltzmann, an Austrian physicist, lived in the latter part of 1800s, came up with a statistical formula for known versus unknown. It is not just a formula, it is a law, second law of thermodynamics. In urban slang, we call it as a law of entropy. The law is not limited to known versus unknown, it is present everywhere, materials and processes and even life itself. Entropy is a true measure of your ignorance of a system. You may say, I don't know a lot of things,
but I know what I know, and what I don't know, I don't know. This statement may seem right before you know about the law of entropy. The law of entropy says the unknown does not sit idle. It is constantly attacking your known systems. Entropy wants you to become ignorant and leaves you in constant confusion. It creates a chaos, your understanding of any system dwindling every day by law of entropy. Only way out is to fight it. Entropy is a tough concept to comprehend. I will do my best here with a simple example. You see a picture of a teacup with the 2 sugar cubes in the bottom, and the top teacup is mixed with the sugar. Adding 2 cubes of sugar makes you happier, but your happiness does not come for free. I know sugar prices are going up. Still worse, the law of entropy says your ignorance is also going up. You have known knowledge that there are 2 sugar cubes. Since you know something makes the bottom cup low entropy state. Now, when you mix the sugar, you turn the simple system into a complex system. Even if I ask you, you cannot get sugar cubes back. Sugar is melted away and you lost all the information about the sugar cubes. The irreversibility of the process increases the state of entropy. In a split second, you made the top cup in a higher entropy state. Known system became an unknown. Just it applies to a teacup, this irreversibility is evident everywhere and everything you do. A simple realization that if you create a process for your company with some data variables, the complexity slowly seeps in. It means you lost control of your process and the information becomes chaotic. But if you keep tabs on what it takes to reverse the process to the initial state, it saves you time, money, and energy. You are keeping the ghost of entropy at bay. Life itself is a low entropy system. Zoom in or zoom out, your cells to your entire body do hand-to-hand combat with the law of entropy to keep you healthy and alive. Your number one enemy is waiting at outskirts of your life and your company. Boltzmann revealed this book of knowledge and wisdom about the universe with his famous equation. He could not convince his peers about his theory. Later, Boltzmann committed suicide, and his famous formula was written on his tombstone. Devil also, like numbers. Chaos may be its nickname, but it is speaking the nature's language, that is mathematics. Cancer is cellular chaos. There is no diagnostic equipment can measure the exact progression, but with the entropy algorithms, you can extract patterns from seemingly chaotic information. One such algorithm came from an unrelated field, football. Yes, game of soccer. Soccer fanatics wanted to know who is going to win the World Cup that is being held every 4 years. The fans include a number of scientists. They created an algorithm called World Cup Optimization Algorithm. I don't know how much it is useful in predicting the World Cup winner, but it is helping to detect and predict the progression of cancer. They are testing with the cancer of melanoma and breast cancer. Boltzmann gave the formula for entropy, but a brilliant mathematician and engineer at the Bell Labs, which became AT&T now, gave a different twist to the concept of entropy. His name is Claude Elwood Shannon. The theory bears his name. It is called Shannon entropy. According to Shannon, the information is central to all processes.
Which I think he's very widely known for, is this notion of a fundamental limit. No matter what you do, as long as you're working with a certain amount of bandwidth, and as long as you're dealing with signals that are only so strong in the face of noise that you confront, no matter what you do, you cannot transmit more than a certain rate.
Here is one remarkable example how you can employ Shannon entropy to healthcare equity and access. The world of medicine made a huge progress in diagnostics and treatments, but healthcare delivery systems are not. A significant number of people on the planet don't see those benefits. Health inequities you can witness in rural and urban America's landscape, and worse, everywhere else. Health delivery system is riddled with complexities. It may be partially political, but it is also filled with logistical complexities. Variants like remote geography, disease burden, and economic backgrounds, to name a few. Where there is a complexity, law of entropy shines. Shannon entropy is successfully utilized by countries like Iran, Turkey, and Greece to address the inequities in healthcare delivery by allocating and utilizing existing resources more efficiently. Truly a remarkable tribute to human mind how an obscure 18th century physicist from Austria and 21st century brilliant mathematician from MIT can help humanity by discovering the hidden laws of nature. Thank you for listening. You can read in my book further. Science is not a subject, science must be a lifestyle.
Nice, very interesting. You're muted, I think.
Correct. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm going to do a short presentation after this. Very
Sure.
short presentation. After that, we can talk a little bit.
Yeah.
So one of the things is that why do we get old? Why don't we get younger? The laws of physics is time invariant. The laws of physics of yesterday are not different from tomorrow. They're all exactly the same. Why? What law is telling you that you're getting older? That is the second law of thermodynamics, which is a law of entropy. It is the one who is guiding that order to disorder. Orderliness to go always goes towards the disorder. That's where our cells in our body, our cells in our body becomes a lost information. That's, I tell you what the losing of information is. Actually, the central piece to get older is the law of entropy, which is a lack of information. That's what it says. Here is a why do we remember past? Why don't you remember future? According to laws of physics, everything is laid down. All the we have access to the past. Why we don't have access to the future? There's no difference for the laws of physics. Only law that made the difference is the law of entropy. That is the reason we can't remember the future. That's a very silly question, but it's an absolutely scientific question. The law that is all related to loss of information. Law of entropy is a loss of information, lost information. So all the cells, if you know in the phase, if you can put it together, the same place, same thing. If you have all the information, you can put it back. Same thing as a sugar cup. I was talking about it. When you mix the sugar, all the information is lost. You cannot find where the sugar molecules are. Same thing happens in the old aging process. You lost the information. That is the cause of the process. You cannot go back. Information is a physical. It is not in a space, but exists in time. That is the difference. It doesn't stay in the somewhere in the physical space. There's all magnetic things that you record it, but actually it exists in time. It's actually physical. Information is a physical. You have to treat that way. So if it is a physical, you can weigh yourself. You can find out your weight. How do you weigh information? That is what Claude Elwood Shannon did. He found you can weigh the information. He came up with a brilliant mathematics. It's called named after him. He followed the Ludwig Boltzmann formula, and he found out English is 1.0 to 1.5 bits per letter. That's a weighing of the language, of the English letters. What it means that if you see, for example, I'm going to show you some example here. On the left side, doctor has admitted the patient. Most of the people can read it, even though there are a lot of spelling mistakes. The reason is, I will explain to you. If it is my second one is my English, my language, my native language, Telugu, Andariki, hello. That is, if you miss one word in it, you cannot even find out what it is. In the Aramaic, which is the Jewish original Hebrew language, it's much more words. So you have to, if you ask me, the number of questions for each one is different. For example, in English, I may ask one question, what is a PNTATE? So that's a patient. Oh, okay. That's maybe one question. The number of questions, if I have one letter missing in this one, in Telugu, one letter missing, you will have a lot more questions, 3 of them. Number of questions, if you one letter missing in Aramaic, the original Jewish language, which is Jesus spoke actually, that is, you have 50 questions. So the complexity is increasing. So that's why English became a popular. The reason is low entropy of the English. Entropy as the lowest English. That's why English became a popular and a business communication tool. That's why Twitter became famous. You don't see Twitter in Telugu, because it's a very difficult if you miss one word. Our presidents, our policymakers can miss 2-3 letters. Still, we can understand what they're trying to say. That is a difference. So the entropy actually made the English language popular. But in the body, all is also information in the body. There's two kinds of information in the body. One is genetic information, the ACGT. There's all those codes that you know. That is the genetic information. Next one is epigenomic information that tells you. That's like a book. Epigenomic information is a new kind of a concept. Is all the information is already there. So the bookmarks you put in, your kid went there and changed all the bookmarks, then you're reading the wrong chapters. That's exactly what the epigenomic genetic information is already there. You can be younger. The only thing is reading these things is getting messed up. Somebody went there. What is the reason the bookmarks go bad in the body? The bookmarks go bad because cellular stress, mitochondrial stress, or environmental, social determinant stress. All these can cause this kind of a variation in the stress in the epigenomic bookmarks. That's epigenome is the genes that tells the gene to read the other genes that governs the other genes are messed up. That is where, but we have all the information to become a completely younger. That's not a problem. So the cellular stresses. So actually, there is a lot of research going on. There is a senescent cells that is in the body. What they do is they constantly, these are the senescent cells, are the cells that don't divide anymore. They are arrest their development. They don't divide. They're useful because they're tumor suppressants. And the second thing is they can go into wound care. They go there and stay there, and then they won't multiply. So we need them. But those are pathological senescent cells, which they don't do anything. They become old and they become a cause of the diseases. That is about the problem. Actually, those senescent cells sending a secretome, information, misinformation. They send a wrong information they send information, the reading part of it is gone bad. The cellular cells are beautiful master communicators. They tell what's going on with their system. But the information was read wrong as our immune system is compromised. That's the environmental stress and the other stresses, mitochondrial stress and other disease burdens can change that process. So that is the information is the last actually. Once we have a control of information, so what is the reason that we lost information about the big younger? So, but the law of entropy is very interesting. For example, so information is already there. If information is there, so according to the laws of physics, you must exist somewhere. Your brain must exist somewhere. That is what the rules are. It is at least one of the tantalizing theories of the physics is there exists a brain just like yours. But how do you, for example, I give you 30 seconds. You look at that red dot on her face for 30 seconds, and look at your ceiling. You will see her. So that's not a Boltzmann brain, but it's interesting. So Boltzmann brains exist like that in that kind of a strange space. Try all 30 seconds. The dot on your nose, 30 seconds. And look at the top. Some people may see it, some people may not see it. Focus on the dot. Now look at the ceiling and see if you can see her. If it's not, you need to practice. That's nothing. It is an optical illusion, but Boltzmann brain works in a similar way. That is a perturbation system. It will your brains will appear somewhere else. So it is already your younger yourself is somewhere there. So lost information is a chaos. Chaos follows precise mathematics. Chaos is not a random as you people think. It follows a particular pattern, a constant, a precise mathematics, a formula it follows. That is the law of entropy. So if you understand that, we can go back and so you can do the cancer detection, we can do the health equity access, you can apply the entropy, and then you can apply the DNA forensics. Actually, there is a thief, there is a robber in Michigan. What he did was he was robbing the stores, store all the stores in that area in Detroit area. So what happened was they caught him. He left. They didn't catch him. So what happened is he left one of his shoes right there, and the shoes was left behind, and then he ran away with the one shoe. But he was a constant annoying for the Detroit Department Police. What they did was they ran the DNA forensics, because DNA is a very small in the shoe, from the shoe to get the DNA from there is not possible. So they use a special kind of mathematics, entropy mathematics, means a disorderly system. All the information is spread out across, and then you can extract, and there is no biological sample required. They extract the mathematical patterns from out of it, and they recognized that guy, and they indicted him, and they convicted him, they sentenced him. He was complaining about it is a computer lynching, is not he was complaining about that. But actually, it is a much more powerful than computer lynching. It is a second law of thermodynamics, a law of entropy, very powerful universal law is behind that process. It's much more stronger than a computer law. But so entropy can give a lot of tools for us. Law of entropy is aging disorder to complexity. You can reverse back. You can go back because you know the precise mathematics. You can remission the cancer. You can reversing the aging process. One of the new drugs that they were suggesting is a very promising drug, is very diabetic drug actually, metformin, could be the anti-aging drug or life extension drug, they say. And take your ask Dr. Madiraju for a prescription. This is not a medical advice, it's just a educational process only. But this is a metformin. They were saying that it is a very promising results for the longevity gene. That is, it extends the longevity genes. So information, when everybody is interested in money part of it, entropy applies to money also. What is entropy says that Bitcoin is much more safer than which is not the fiat money. Fiat money is not backed by any gold, no silver, anything. So it opens to a lot of corruption, a lot of uncertainties. That's the information is gone in that sense. A lot of information is chaotic there. That's the reason that entropy of the regular money that we do is a lot of prone to corruption. In the Bitcoin, actually there is a fraud going on in Bitcoin, but mathematics behind it is solid. It is, you cannot cheat on Bitcoin, on the blockchain technology. Blockchain is a mathematical model. You cannot lie. It's a mathematical prowess of the truth teller. The only thing is when you convert in the Bitcoin to the regular coins, regular money, that's where all these frauds coming in. But Bitcoin, they say, entropy says it has a more power, it has more information, it is more transparent in my view. That's what the certainty is there. The future of the money is going to be the NFTs. That's what he says. So tribute to these two giants of science, Ludwig Boltzmann from 18th century, a physicist, and Claude Elwood Shannon, a mathematician from MIT. Both of them did a remarkable, gave a mathematics for us to find the entropy, to use it in science and healthcare and other areas. So doctors need to be exposed to a little bit of other areas to interestingly, that makes a difference. Life is what are we? Life is an ordered collection of molecules. The universe began its journey roughly 14 billion years ago and marching towards the end. On its way, a bunch of atoms get together to create a you and me. That is what we call life. When our time comes, we dissolve into atoms and more particles to become part of the universe again. In a way, that is, we are allowed to a brief time on this planet. So that is in a way, we are connected to the beginning of the universe to the end of the universe. So the science is innovation without entropy, is emperor without its clothes. So what is entropy is saying that? I want to tell you what is entropy saying that. What entropy says that is that you need to reverse the system every day and check it out. What it takes to be reversing that system, what energy, what money, what resources it takes to reverse the system, initial system. It takes more and more. It is a complex. So every time you provide a system, make sure it's not a bills and buzzles are good. A simplicity is good. In fact, if you know how to reverse it much easier, that is a better system than simply giving all the belts and all the other areas that you want to improve. That is not the we keep it simple and the reverse the process much easier. Then entropy is lower, and that's called software entropy. Actually, there is a Wikipedia. It's called software entropy. Entropy means you're increasing the depth of the universe. You're increasing the sin of the universe. Basically, that's a the no one can escape the entropy. Entropy is marching towards the tomorrow. Entropy is yeah. I don't know whether I have okay. Let me. So entropy is a marching towards tomorrow. We cannot stop it, but you can feel it better. So entropy is Dr. Madhiraj, I'm going to bring it. He is the one who is trying to do information and everything. Dr. Madhiraju. So this is I'm trying to give a different looks for the doctors to give us some ideas in that area.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. In fact, I had to Google the term entropy because my understanding of entropy was a biological one, but I was fascinated by your presentation. It makes sense, and yeah, so I'm not.
So wanted to ask you. So your plans are next few years. You definitely went for good to India.
Yes, but I'm fighting entropy as I see it now.
Entropy is a thing. Yeah, you have to bring it back, the entropy system to the back.
The constant line towards chaos. I have to kind of work on that.
Yes, but it is a precise chaos. Is when they say central station, they found out that chaos is a people walking around in the central station. What they found out, Central Union Station, what they found out is if you put a rotunda in between, people follow certain patterns. So even the chaotic information follows some certain principles of mathematics. So that's if you've been to Orlando, you're pretty sure you take your children. You see that they will not. You see the human engineering there. They will not accumulate people in one area. McDonald, they put one McDonald, Legos in other area. They spread out people very intelligently. That is kind of engineering ideas, design thinking ideas would be fantastic ideas to adopt.
That's what I'm talking about. That's I think we should fire half the people in healthcare and bring people from Disneyland and hotels and hospitality industry to kind of take up those jobs, and I'm sure things will get sorted out.
Thank you. I'm honored to speak with you, sir. You're truly a hero for me, and we're looking forward to talking with you further in the future. It is an absolute honor, and thank you, Dr. Satish Madhiraju.
Thank you so much.
Cardiologist, India. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.